Hello everyone, very good morning and welcome to the Odata Made Easy course. In this course, we are going to learn various different concept along with real-time example. So our intention over here to become a pro Odata developer. In this course, also we will try to see the different way how we can generate the Odata services, like using the SADL framework. Also, with the help of CDS, we can generate the OData service. So that will come at the end of this course gradually. Let's start our first session. And in this first session, we will start with the OData introduction. So what is OData? What is OData? So we know that OData is nothing but it stands for Open Data Protocol. It stands for what? It stands for Open Data Protocol. Why it was required? Why the OData required? There is a reason behind everything, and behind this also we have a reason. You know, so when the world is evolving towards the tablet, browser, mobile, so SAP also has to think in that way. So when they have to expose their data towards PC, mobile, or tablet, they require a mechanism through which they can expose their data towards external world. So as you know, how is the architecture of a SAP? So here generally we are having the NetWeaver application server, NetWeaver application server, and here you know here we are having the database. It can be any database. Here we are having the database, and also we are having the GUI, right? So here let's have the GUI. So this is the typical architecture. This is the typical R3 architecture. But now, in place of GUI, the data has to be exposed towards the external environment, like, so I'm just going to remove this GUI now. So now at the GUI layer, we have the data need to be exposed to the mobile, this can be your PC also, or tablet. Let's write the tablet, or or any browser based application, browser based application, right? Or let's have, suppose if you have some third-party application like Java application, or if you have some .NET application. Okay, so any different kind of application it can be, right? So now the question comes over here, how to integrate, how to expose the data towards these different sets of application. Here we are having NetWeaver application server. Here you have the data need to exposed over here directly. SAP will not be able to communicate with these application. They require a front end, they require a gateway. Okay, they require a gateway. So here you have the gateway. Here you have the gateway. So let me put like this so that I will get more space. Okay, so this is your gateway. Now, because this is your gateway, all these application which we are able to see over here, this can be connected, so let's put inside a box and just like this is the different box in which all these application are there, and this is trying to you know connect with NetWeaver application server directly. It is not possible, directly like this, it is not possible. So for that purpose, we are having the gateway over here. Through the gateway, we can connect this NetWeaver application, and this NetWeaver application, in the NetWeaver application, this is the server. On top of the server, you can have the ECC product, you can have the SRM product, you can have the CRM product, you can have the SCM product, and there can be many other products as well, right? So different products can be installed on the NetWeaver application, and you have to expose the data from ECC, SRM, CRM, SCM, right, to this third-party application to the outer world. That is possible through the gateway. That's where in this gateway, based upon the REST protocol, we have the concept of the OData. So this gateway is nothing but a OData service provider. This is a software which implements the concept of OData. This is the gateway which implements the concept of OData, and through this gateway, these all other applications can connect, can contact, can communicate, right? So here we will be developing the services, right? So gateway, at the gateway layer, we are going to create the services. Why we are telling the services, because it is like API, application programming interface. So you know that what is API. Once your API is developed, that the same API you can use at multiple places, right? So you are going to create the single API, you are going to create the single service, and the same service can be used by this application, by the Java application, by .NET application, by mobile application, by the tablet application, right? This can be used by n number of application. Okay, this can be used by n number of application. And this, at this gateway layer, what we are going to create, we are going to create the OData service. We are going to create the OData service. Now here important point, here we have the important point. What is that important point? See, this gateway is nothing but again a software. This gateway is nothing but again a software, some set of programs, this is also, you can understand, in form of add-ons. Okay, so there are basically two types of add-ons, IW underscore BEP, and another add-on which is having that is named IW underscore FND. So there are two add-on. One is IW underscore FND and another is IW underscore BEP, right? So when we have to create the OData service, when we have to create the OData service, they are generally required two component. One component here at the gateway layer, IW underscore FND. This component, this add-on, this is a add-on, this is a software set of programs. This need to be installed at the gateway layer. And here you have to install at the backend, you have to install at the backend, you have to install IW underscore BEP. Here you have to install IW underscore BEP. Okay. Such kind of scenario where the gateway is separated from the NetWeaver application, these are known as central hub scenario. What kind of scenario these are known as? These are known as central hub scenario. What is the meaning of central hub scenario? In the central hub scenario, if you see over here, this gateway is separated from your actual NetWeaver application. Means your ECC is separate, your SRM is separate, your CRM is separate, your SCM is separate, right? So we can even present it little better in order to have the better understanding, you know. So remove this layer, and now remove this also, remove this also. So here you have like this. Here you have the ECC. Here you have the CRM. And here you have the SCM, right? So these are the different, you know, different component which have been installed on top of NetWeaver application, right? And this gateway is going to communicate with this SCM, this CRM, and this ECC, right? So single service, you know, the single here, whatever you are going to develop for the CRM, whatever you are going to develop for the ECC, whatever you are going to develop for the SCM. So this service actually for the purpose of fetching the data from SCM, from CRM, from ECC. How they are going to fetch the data? They are going to fetch the data using the RFC function module, right? So when we talk about the RFC function module, that means BAPI will also come into picture, because BAPI is nothing but, you know, a standard business object function module, right? So BAPI based upon the business object. We already know the concept of BAPI. BAPI is nothing but a RFC function module, right? Which is registered with the business object, right? So BAPI, through the BAPI, so either with the help of RFC function module or BAPI, you are going to, you know, in the gateway, like if you have the gateway installed over here, and here you have the ECC, here you have the CRM, here you have the SCM, right? So with the help of this RFC function module, you are going to fetch the data from the different environment over here, and from again here you are passing the data through the network layer, right? Here you are passing the data to the different services. Getting my point, right? So this gateway is also based upon your ABAP language. This gateway has been developed in ABAP language, right? And the CCC, CRM, SCM, all these are there in the ABAP language. Because all these are there in form of ABAP language, RFC communication, you know, BAPI communication can be established easily. And that's why this can communicate with the help of what? This can communicate with the help of RFC function module, right? So here also everything is there in ABAP only. Okay. Now, another important point. If this is not the case, if this is not the case, suppose your organization is small. That means in your organization only ECC component is installed, right? In your organization only ECC component is installed. Means uh, you have the scenario like this. Just remove this and remove this. You have the scenario like this. Okay. Then in that case, actually this IW underscore FND, that means the gateway, you can embed with the ECC itself. That means in NetWeaver ACC, matlab ECC and gateway both can be installed together. You don't have to separate, you don't require to have the separate gateway system. So what you can do, that this gateway can put together with this ECC. So in this case, what it will be, ECC plus gateway you can install together. Okay, if you have the single system, right? If you have the multiple system, this, this central hub, this is known as the central hub scenario. The one which just we are discussing is the central hub. Why it is central hub? Why it is central hub? Because this is in center. Gateway is in your center of all these browser application and all these SAP application. This is in center. So this is known as the central hub scenario. So here in this installation, what is the benefit? Just you have to install at one place this gateway, right? And this gateway is going to communicate with ECC, with CRM, SCM, and there can be several other services, right? But, but if you have the single system only in ECC, means SD, MMP, PPS, right? FICO, only these, not the CRM. CRM means customer relationship management. SCM means supply chain management, right? So if that is not, if your organization is not complex, central hub scenario, you can ignore, you can go for the embedded scenario. In this scenario, your gateway is going to come over here. It's going to get embedded with the, it's going to get embedded with the ECC itself. Okay. So it's going to get embedded with the ECC itself. So this is, here you have the gateway Odata service. So this is known as what? This is known as the embedded scenario. Embedded scenario, right? Here also you can go for the central hub scenario, but there is no meaning of going over here with the central hub scenario. Why? Because you have only ECC system. So why again you require more system for the purpose of only gateway? Your cost is going to get increased, right? Just you have to manage with the, ECC in, because you have to manage with only one software, that is the ECC. You can go for the embedded scenario. This is the case over here. But in this case, if you consider, if you try to go with the embedded scenario, right? Here you can see that one gateway is connected with ECC, CRM, and SCM. If in this scenario, if you are trying to go with the embedded, what will happen? This gateway you have to install here also, this gateway you have to install here also, this gateway you have to install here also. All these three places, this gateway need to be installed. So this will become, complex, and again, to manage also it will become very difficult, right? So when you have the multiple system, better to go with the central hub scenario. However, you can go here also with the embedded scenario. There is no issue, but the problem you can understand what is going to be there, right? At three places you have to manage the gateway. So hope you understood what is the central hub scenario. Again, I repeat, in the central hub scenario, this gateway is there at one place, right? Separated with the ECC, CRM, and SCM, and your RFC function module. Through the RFC function module, it's going to get connected. Now, can you tell me here, my question to you, if it is the central hub scenario, then the performance is going to be faster or it's going to be slower? What it's going to be, if it is the central hub scenario, then data processing, when it has to fetch the data from the different server, how it has to fetch? It has to fetch the data from the RFC function module. So because here it has to communicate with this, then it has to use the RFC function module. But here, if you can see in the embedded scenario, it does not require the RFC function module because it's embedded. So can you tell me, like, here in the embedded scenario, performance is good, or in central hub scenario, performance is good? So for embedded scenario, you just type E. For central hub scenario, if you think central hub scenario is going to be faster, then you type C here in the chat box. Okay. So Fred is telling E, embedded scenario is having the better performance. Rahul is telling C, the central hub scenario is going to have the better performance. What is having others' opinions? Here we are having the 7 people. Can you tell me what are I want the view of everyone. No, I want view of everyone over here. Just type over here. You have to type either E or C. What do you think? It's going to be embedded scenario faster, or it's going to be central hub scenario faster? Fine. So thank you for your answer. Yeah, you were right. Central hub scenario is not going to be faster, but the embedded scenario is going to be faster because here the communication is internal. Here the communication is based upon the RFC, right? So now you understood where you have to use the central hub scenario and where you have to use the embedded scenario, right? So there are two types of scenario, right? One is the embedded scenario, and another is the central hub scenario. In embedded scenario, what is going to happen? In embedded scenario, the very first point, right? Along with SAP application, gateway will be installed, right? There is no RFC connection required to connect with ECC or SRM or CRM or SCM, any software. Okay. In the central hub scenario, what it's going to be? In the central hub scenario, the very first point over here is this will be separated. This will be separated with other applications. The second one is gateway has to communicate with other SAP applications like here ECC, SRM, CRM, SCM with RFC function module. RFC function module or BAP, right? So this is what we understood. Now let's come to the, at gateway, what we are having, wherever the gateway does not matter, if it is the embedded scenario, see, if it's the embedded scenario, both this component, both the component, which component? IW underscore BEP, this is the add-on, this is the software add-on, and IWFND. So IW underscore BEP stands for what? backend. IW underscore BEP should be installed at backend. Backend means ECC, CRM, SRM, you know, this must be installed. So if you want to implement the OData service, right? If you want to implement the OData service, you require both these IW underscore BEP, IW underscore FND. You require both these. So IW underscore BEP should be installed at backend. Backend means at ECC layer, at ECC layer, and IW underscore FND, this component you have to install at front end. Front end means at gateway layer. So in here, you know, you can see that at gateway layer I have written IW underscore FND, and at backend everywhere here in ECC also you'll have to install what? IW underscore BEP. Here also you'll have to install IW underscore BEP. Here also you'll have to install I underscore BEP. This particular component you will have to install. Okay. In embedded scenario, one more thing you have to understand that, however, this is the basis part, we don't have to bother much about this. From NetWeaver 7.40, okay, from NetWeaver 7.40 onwards, okay, you have only single component called GW underscore FND. So GW underscore FND is the combination of IW underscore BAP and IW underscore FND. So on NetWeaver more than 7.40, directly this component can be installed in order to have both component together. Okay. So this is from the basis point of view. Okay. This is from the basis point of view. One more note or knowledge you can have over here. If you are less than 7.30, if your NetWeaver is less than 7.30, then for front end you require, you know, GW underscore FND, sorry, IW underscore FND plus IW underscore GW underscore core. So if you are less than on 7.30, IW underscore FND plus GW underscore core will be required for gateway. This is for gateway. Okay. This is for gateway. This is for gateway. And for backend, what you require? Again, the same thing. For backend, you require, for backend, you require only what? For backend, you require IW underscore BEP. This is what you require for less than 7.30. When you are equal to 7.30 or greater than 7.30, then for gateway, you require only IW underscore FND, right? IW underscore FND. This GW underscore core has been merged together with the IW underscore FND. Okay. So this is what you have the overall idea in terms of you know, the software component, right? So nowadays, if you go and check if you are greater than 7.40 and if you have the embedded scenario, you know, only the GW underscore FND component you will be able to find. I will show you in my system also. Let me open the system. Fine, let it get connect. So this we understood. So now let's go and try to understand about the different stuff. What's the different stuff? Here we understood the gateway foundation, how it is exactly, right? So let's once again come to the OData. So now OData is based upon the REST protocol. REST stands for representational state transfer protocol, right? REST stands for representational state transfer. This is the meaning of REST protocol. So basically there are two types of protocol. And what is protocol? Protocol is nothing but the set of rules, set of instruction, set of rules or set of instructions. You can understand set of disciplines or instructions. The protocol is nothing but set of rules. So there are, two types of services. The very old kind of service now also exists, that is known as the SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol. Simple Access Object Protocol. But this is having some problem. Okay. The SOAP is having some problem. Again, you have the second one is the REST. Representational State Transfer. Okay. So there are two types of services basically. One is the SOAP and another is the REST. So these are based on protocols. These are based on protocols. These are some set of rules which had been defined in a certain order, and then it becomes the protocol. So services and services is of two types. One is REST and another is the SOAP. SOAP is the old one. SOAP is the old one. It is having its own pros and cons. Okay. SOAP is having its own pros and cons. SOAP is heavyweight. There is a reason why it's heavyweight, because it is like envelope. SOAP is like a envelope based protocol. So it's like an envelope, means there will be one surroundings on the top of data. Okay. So envelope, it is like the envelope. Okay. So inside the envelope you have the content, you have written some, later you put inside the envelope. So here if you see, the security is more. Here if you have in the SOAP you have the more security. Okay. But because it's a heavy weight, it is not having the good performance, not good performance. Okay. Then it is HTTP and it is SMTP, and this is FTP based protocol. Okay. It supports only XML. It supports only XML. Also, while having the post operation, means if you want to create something, right, it has to make the contract with WSDL, Web Services Description Language. Web Services Description Language. So it is having the WSDL file with whatever, the contract, whatever the rules, whatever the instructions that is given over there in 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 compliance to that, it has to follow. Means what WSDL file is representation for your creation of any data at backend. So WSDL is a kind of, library, you can say, or kind of document. It's basically a document which is having the set of you know set of stuff which is responsible for, means set of contract, it is, which is responsible for creating the uh, creating some data or creating some uh, records in the backend. Okay. So it's the contract actually. Okay. WSDL, how the data need to be created, what it should be nature, right? So this WSDL, you can also understand like it can contain the metadata. So we'll be understanding what is this metadata and all in the coming classes. Classes are going to be very detailed, and from scratch to advanced we are going to cover everything so that none of the concept remains untouched. So most of the concept we are trying to touch in the detailed way over here, and that's the agenda. Okay, so WSDL, web services description language. Okay, and it is stateful. The meaning of stateful means, one, it is going to connect with your backend, right? Once, so you can see that you have the different browser based application, this. If we're going to connect with the soap service, okay, the connection is going to be stateful. Stateful means once you are login, once you are logging through soap services to gateway, let's suppose once you are going to log in through the soap services to this gateway, you know it will be there until you will log out from the session. The session connection will be established until you are going to log out. Okay, so session connection will be established till the time you are going to log out. So when you will be log out, then only the connection will be so then only your connection and everything is going to be removed from this. Okay, so suppose you have opened a browser session over here and you are connected with the soap services. Okay, so if you are logged in into this gateway service, you are going to remain over there the time till when you are going to log out. Okay, so it has to capture your data, it has to take your session all the time till you log out, right? So suppose for 5 hours you have not logged out through your from your browser, or if you have not set any mechanism in a browser, like if we're going to be idle for 3 hours or half an hour or 10 minutes, means you have to set some mechanism, like if it's more than half an hour, automatically get log out. Otherwise it's going to be permanently over there, and that's where system will start crashing if the multiple people is going to log in, right? And if you have observed also, if you have observed also in our SAP GUI, if you leave for more than 30 minutes or more than 20 minutes based upon your basic settings, right? So SAP GUI connection with your ECC or SRM or CRM is nothing but a stateful, a stateful connection. That is the stateful, that is known as a stateful. However, that is not based on SOAP or something like that, but that is an example of, a stateful connection. Okay, that is the example of a stateful. So what's the meaning of a stateful? You understood? Once you are logged in into a system, you will be there until you are going to log out, right? Here in the rest, in the rest, this is the new one. This has come around 2007, developed by Microsoft, developed by Microsoft, and later now it is taken care by the Oasis technology. Okay, Oasis organization. Now later it is taken care by Oasis. Okay, it's the lightweight. It's a lightweight. Here you can see that soap is the heavyweight, it is the lightweight. What's the meaning of lightweight? Its own weight is very less. Its own weight is very less. How? Because all the address information and the content is there in the same thread. Here content in the different thread and address in the different thread. Here address and content is going to be together. Address and content is going to be together. So it's like, postcard. So you can compare with the postcard. Okay, you can compare with the postcard. In yesterday's session we have discussed this particular things in more detail. If you want, you can go and check it out, but uh, hope you are able to understand here also, right? It's like the postcard. If you have seen the postcard, right, in the postcard, the same postcard, we can write the address and we can write the content also. But in envelope, what we do, we create a letter and we put letter inside the envelope, right? But in postcard behaves like a letter as well as address, so rest, its own weight is very less. Its own weight is very less, and because it's a very, less, its weight is very less, from performance point of view it's going to be very fast. So from performance point of view, it is fast, right? So here, uh, no good performance. Here you have the very good performance. Very good performance. Fine. Then see, which is going to be better from the security wise. Your postcard is going to be better from the security wise, or your envelope is going to be where your content is easily accessible. Where your content is easily accessible, can you write here in the chat box? In, if you think postcard, write P over here. If you think envelope, write E over here, right? So in P, your content is easily accessible. That means at postcard, your content is easily accessible, right? Because you're, you know, because everything is facing towards the external world, right? There is no security, there is no envelope, right? There is no boundary, there is no wall, right? So this is having the less security feature. Inbuilt security feature is less. So what you will have to do, either you will have to encrypt the data or you will have to use some another mechanism. So you can use another mechanism for security purpose. Okay, this is only HTTP based or HTTPS based protocol. Here you can see that SOAP is SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, file transfer protocol. It is based upon all these three. SOAP is based upon HTTP, SMTP, and FTP. Here it is based upon HTTP or HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Security, right? So only these two is supported over here. Here you can see it's only support the XML. Here in the rest, the best thing is that it supports XML as well as JSON. Both it supports. Both it supports. And the beauty of JSON is that it is again lightweight and readability is very nice over here in the JSON. We will see in the coming classes how JSON readability is so impactful. You will be easily able to understand what's the data is there with the help of JSON. However, in XML, that much readability is not there. Here you have to put a lot of effort in order to understand, how the content is there. Web services description language. Here you don't require WSDL. Don't require any kind of WSDL. Don't require any WSDL. And this is the very important is stateless. Very important, very important. So if someone is asking what is the difference between SOAP and REST, at least you are supposed to tell, SOAP is stateful and REST is stateless. If you just tell these things, your answer is sufficient. Your answer is sufficient. Like they will understand, okay, you are having, it is that much important point, stateful and stateless, right? Very big difference. Stateless, in stateless, what will happen over here when You send a request to the backend here from third party. When you are sending the request to the backend over here, it will not wait for you to log out. Once it pass the responses from here to here, automatically your session will be destroyed. Okay, so it will not be having the initial information about your session. Okay, it is not going to have the previous information, previous session information over here, right? So it has to, so once suppose here from third party you are asking for the purchase order detail, right? So what it will do, it will come over here, take the purchase order detail and pass it over here. That's it. And your session will not be longer over here. Means your user information, your stickiness. There is a term called stickiness, server stickiness, server stickiness. This server stickiness comes with when you have the stateful, it will come and stick with the server. But in restful, that server stickiness is not there. Once it returns the data over here, once it returns its request over here, its work is over. Don't have to bother about anything. Okay, its work is over. Okay, so you understood what is the meaning of it will not wait. If your services is based upon REST, it will not wait for you to log out from the session manually. No, automatically once its work is done, once it returns its responses, your session will be destroyed. That's the beauty of REST protocol. Very big point. This is very big point. You have to remember this point. In interview they can ask what's the meaning of a stateful, what's the meaning of a stateless, and generally people gets confused. Okay, generally people gets confused. I was confused for 2 years with these terms, stateful and stateless. Initially for 2 years I was not able to understand properly what is the meaning of a stateful and what is the meaning of a stateless. Gradually, I understood the meaning of these terms, stateful and stateless. Okay, there are so many terms which is going to differentiate the SOAP and REST, uh, that we will be looking into the coming classes. One more important stuff I'm just going to discuss in today's class, that is the gateway architecture. What is this gateway made it of? What are the different components involved in it? So see here, this is our gateway. Okay, this is our gateway. So if gateway is installed together with ECC or CRM or SCM, right, it is known as the embedded one, right? I'm just taking out this gateway at here separate so that we can understand the architecture, like what are the things over here in this architecture. Okay, so copy this gateway and put it over here. Sorry, it was not copied. Copy and put it over here. This is my gateway and I will enlarge. And here we have the different component. Let's explore its component. Okay. So here, the very first component, it is having the service repository. What's the meaning of service repository? What's the, sorry, service registry, not repository, service registry. What's the meaning of service registry? So the meaning of service registry means whenever you are going to create any service, any OData service, at the gateway, you can register that one. And this is a component which is enabling to register the services, to register the OData services. So this is one component called service registry, with the help of which you can register whatever the OData, whatever the service you are going to create. Okay, so service registry enables you to register the service. It's a self-explanatory, right? Then you have the metadata repository. What you have? Metadata repository. What is this metadata repository? See, when you are going to create any entity type, so when we have to create the OData, na, we have to create the entity type, we have to create the entity set, we have to create navigation, association, right? So we have to create the different artifacts, we have to create different objects. So when you create the different objects, you are going to give some properties over there. So all those information about a entity type or entity set or a entity, that is known as metadata. Metadata means data about data. So on gateway, you are having the metadata repository. Okay. On the gateway, you are having the metadata repository, means the data about data. So data about data. Data about data. So the first data means properties. First data stands for properties. And the second data stands for over here, like entity type, entity sets, entity type, entity sets, association, navigation, function import. It can be so many artifacts. So second data depends on the represents the artifacts. Okay. So this is the first, this is the one, this is the second, right? Another component, you have the event. You know, the OData gateway is having the event handling capacity, event handling component it is having. Why event handling component will be required? See, your browser is going to send the request, right? Your browser over here is going to send the request to the gateway. How the gateway will know someone is requesting? So some event will be triggered, right? So it is having a component called event handler, or it is having, you know, set of different, like the event handling component, in event handling itself, the taking the request, responding the request, so many things comes into the picture. So we can write event only over here, right? So in event, you can have over here the request handling, then request processing, all these things will come under the event handler. Another component, what's the another component you have? Another component we have, that is known as, you know, supportability. Supportability, what is the meaning of supportability over here? So when we talk about the supportability, you know, when we talk about the supportability, supportability in terms of two facts. Supportability comes in terms of two facts. One is monitoring. It's this component is going to help you for the purpose of monitoring your OData, right? And another for the purpose of tracing. Suppose if you want to trace, you know, that's where it's also going to help you. So for the purpose of monitoring and for the purpose of tracing, you know, monitoring, and this is your tracing. Okay. So supportability will come into two part. It's going to support into two flavor. Okay, so hope you got this point over here, what actually I'm trying to uh, tell, right? Let me combine it together, all this, and go here, right? So this is like what we are having. Okay, so now Now here, you should understand that, you should understand this is the part of front end, gateway front end. This is the part of gateway front end. So if you talk in terms of before less than, 7.30, then the GW underscore core plus IW underscore FND means these are all the component which we have just discussed over here is the part of GW underscore core plus IW underscore FND software component. Okay, got my point, right? Now in backend, right? In backend, so this is the component which we have discussed about, this GW underscore core plus IW underscore FND, where it was in less than 7.30, it was there as the part of gateway component, right? But you also require to create some class, some customizing code and all, right? So for that purpose, what you are going to do, you are going to use the SCGW transaction, and SCGW transaction, this is the where we are going to create the OData services with the help of SCG transaction only, right? So now here the point comes how SCGW transaction is going to get enabled. So for this purpose, you have to install IW underscore BEP, component. So this will be installed where? This will be installed, if it is the central hub scenario, this will be installed here, either on ECC, on CRM, or this here I have written already, right? You have to install. What is the component of this IW underscore BEP? So let me start writing the first component. It is having the service builder tool. It is having the service builder tool. What is the service builder tool? SEGW, right? This is the first component. Then service provider implementation, right? What is the service? One is the service builder. Through SCGW, you can go and create your service, right? Another is service provider implementation. The meaning of this, let me explain you. Service provider implementation. What is a service provider? See, your BAPI and RFCs are service provider over here. Your BAPI plus RFCs are service provider. Okay, your BAPIs and RFC are service provider. Why it is called the service provider? This BAPI can connect with your backend system, right? This BAPI plus this RFCs can connect. You can connect with your multiple system like SRM and CRM or from different system, right? And from there you can fetch the data, correct? From there you can fetch the data. Now that's why it is called the service provider. Now this service provider you can implement in your OData in order to fetch the data from this. So with the help of this also directly, without writing a single line of code, also you can create your OData service. So we will see how with the help of BAPI and RFC using the Saddle framework, we can create the OData service. Okay. So here also you are having the SADL framework here at IW underscore BEP component. SADL framework. So you if you have heard about the different types of classes, right? DPC, then DPC extension, then MPC, then MPC extension, or if you have attended the studied the demo session, right? There we have seen about these classes, right? So this class is not required in this SADL framework. Okay, this means, however, it also creates some set of classes and all, but the custom class is the one which we develop, you know means we don't have to do any coding. It has to create. If it has to create DPC, it will create. If it has to create MPC, it will create, right? Extension is not required in case of SADL. Okay, even you will not be able to change the code also. Okay, it's automatic generated code by SADL. So SADL is also part of this IW underscore BEP. So here you have the three component. One is the service builder, another is a service provider, you know, uh, service provider implementation using the SADL framework. So let's write it here itself using SADL. Okay, and of course the SADL component will be there, then only this implementation is possible, right? So this is what you are having, the IW underscore BEP component and detail. So with this, we will stop our today's session. If you have any query and concern over here, let me know. Okay. Tomorrow, we are going to discuss about the entity type. We are going to see the practical, how we are going to create the services, then we will go into the CRUD operation, then association, then navigation, then the different types of URI, then the service generation using the SADL. There are so many things yet to come. This was just the beginning. Hope your foundation is now strong. Your understanding about the OData, its architecture, its basic is now clear, right? So if you have any question over here, Ashwaya, Millie, Fred, right, Rahul, Lokesh, any question if you have, feel free to ask over here. If any doubt. Ashwarya is not having any doubt. Anyone else? So shall I assume all the concept what we have discussed is very much clear for everyone over here? Fine then. So thanks for attending the session. Bye bye. Have a nice day. And we will meet tomorrow. Okay. This all the classes are going to be there on weekdays from Monday to Friday. So make sure to join each class. Fine.